What's going on, guys? Tantalized Gaming here, and tonight I'm bringing you a video about macros. I've been getting a lot of questions lately about how to set up macros and what macros really help yourself as a Warlock player. So in this video, I'm going to be covering some macros for both Affliction and Destruction. Just keep in mind that the macros that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight are pretty much the same for both specs. A lot of the concepts are the same. I just wanted to kind of help educate people that have been wondering about how to set up a macro, exactly like what the formula is for writing that macro. So let's jump into it. Forgive me, guys, for the barking dogs in this video. My dogs are crazy. All right, guys, so to start out with, I'm going to go over some macros that I use for Destruction Warlock. Again, a lot of these macros are applicable to both Destruction and Affliction. So the first thing that you want to do when creating a macro is /macro. It'll bring up the macro creation tabs. You can, in this tab, hit new, and it will bring up this menu here. You can select either an icon that you like here, as far as what's shown, or you can type in a shortcut like hashtag show tooltip, and then whatever the name of the ability is at the top there, and that will put the portrait of the ability on the actual spell that you're creating. So keep that in mind. If there's something that you're looking at that you don't find it in the pictures listed when you hit create new, you can enter hashtag show tooltip and then the name of the ability, and it will put the picture for that ability as the macro button. So that's kind of the first thing about making macros, is, you know, creating the portrait for it and how you want it to look. The next thing is understanding how to actually type the formula for macros. So we'll go over as if we're creating a new one together. So you enter /macro, and you come in here to your overall macros and you just hit new. And for me, I'm just gonna click a portrait. You can name it whatever you want. And then once that's done, it'll bring you into this field here. So that's where you start actually typing in the macro. So typically for like your regular abilities, you're gonna hit /cast. In certain situations, you might hit like /stopcast and then below it /cast. An example of that I have is actually for my spell reflect here, or my nether ward. Essentially, if I'm in the middle of casting a fear, or if I'm in the middle of casting a chaos bolt or something like that, I can use this macro. It's going to stop my cast of chaos bolt and actually apply nether ward, like if a greater pyroblast or something like that is coming towards me. So that's an example of when you'd want to type like stop casting first, and then /cast, whatever it is you're trying to use, is like for defensives or something like that. But for the most part, you're pretty much just going to be typing in /cast. And then the next field after you type /cast is where you start getting into like your actual targeting system, if you will. So for me, myself, I'm a strong believer in arena targeting. Obviously, there's players that play in different ways. If you wanted to, you could do target equal focus instead of target equal arena 1. Sometimes that's nice for like battlegrounds and stuff. If you're doing BGs, having a focus target will help you a little bit more in that aspect. But as far as like, I don't know, arenas, I don't feel like it's as good. Primarily because if you have a focus and that focus is a class that's able to re-stealth, it will clear your focus. And if they open up on you and you're in the heat of the moment, trying to reset your focus can be stressful on top of just trying to play the game. So having an arena target system makes it to where you're not having to constantly reset your focus. Essentially, you'll have arena 1, arena 2, arena 3, and then you'll look at what class is in what arena position. So when you start an arena, you'll see the portraits come up into the game. And you'll see the top player in the portraits is arena 1, the middle player would be arena 2, and then in the bottom portrait, that would be arena 3. So if you're wanting to say, you know, Mortal Coil as an Affliction Warlock, whoever's in position arena 2 then you would just write in the brackets target equal arena 2 as part of the macro, and then the spell that you're wanting to cast after that. So that's the same for pretty much all of my arena targeting, is arena target 1, arena target 2, and arena target 3 as far as arenas go. I do the same thing for my command demon ability. So whether you're summoning your Fell Hunter or your Succubus, this macro here will apply to both. Now granted, I don't know if it's been the same for you guys, but for me, Warlocks have kind of been bugged as far as like their Succubus goes. Mine hasn't been charming in arenas, but I've even gone as far as just like taking the actual ability off of my Succubus and putting it on my spell bars and using it, and it still doesn't work. So I don't know if Blizzard's aware of that or what's going on with that. But as far as like your Fell Hunter, if you were to summon your Fell Hunter, then you can see here it automatically applies to each of those macros. So if I get into an arena and the healer is in position 3 and it's he or she is casting a heal, all I have to do is hit my shift 3. That will apply for arena target 3, and it will interrupt the heal of whoever's in arena position 3. So that's kind of my system of macros as far as like arena targeting goes. I feel like setting up your fears on these type of targeting macros for arenas is really good. Your pet ability, mortal coils. For Destro, I have all of my havocs on that same thing. So if I'm attacking arena target 2 and I want to havoc arena target 3 to get off a double coil, then instead of clicking on arena target 3, casting havoc, and then going back to arena target 2 and then casting mortal coil, I can just hit my macro. I know that it's going to go on to arena target 2 or 3 and then use my ability and keep attacking. It just kind of cuts down time and stuff like that. So remember, these brackets are not the brackets with the squigglies on them. It's just a simple barred bracket, and then you put the left bracket right where you're going to start typing what it is you want your targeting system to be, and then to end it, you'll put the right bracket, and then whatever the name of the spell is. So make sure that that's spelled correctly, or the macro won't work. So that's kind of my advice as far as like the targeting macros go. Another system of macros that I really am enjoying, again, as far as Destro, is at cursor macros. So similar to target equal arena 2 or arena 3, for this macro, you're going to type in /cast and then bracket it, and it'll be at cursor and then in bracket and then the name of the ability. So I've learned that you can do this with Summon Infernal, Rain of Fire. You can do it with your Gate if you want. You can do it with Shadow Fury. If you're playing Affliction and for whatever reason you're using Vile Taint, I'm sure you could do it with that. Trying to think of any other AoE kind of aiming based abilities for Affliction. But anyway, so yeah, so what that'll look like is it pretty much eliminates the time it would take to aim where it is that you want the ability to go. So for instance here, if I'm using my Shadow Fury and I click the ability, it still allows me the option to select where I want that ability to be casted. You're increasing the time of having to click again in order to get that ability off. So, but if you're comfortable with aiming with your cursor and you want to save time as far as getting abilities off, then I would suggest doing the at cursor macro, because essentially what you can do, and I'll show you here in this video, is get some shards up, and then you just use your Summon Infernal. Notice the green thing didn't come up, and then I also have my Rain of Fire on the same kind of setup. So if you're doing like PvE, this is really a big time saver of not having to keep clicking where you want the ability to go. Just remember and keep in mind that you have to be smart about where your cursor is when using the at cursor macros. But those are two of my definite favorite ones. It just saves you time on having to click the ability after you activate it. And especially if you're in a dungeon and you're using like Wilfred's and you want to get as many shards spent as quick as you can during that Infernal duration, then having that set up like that it's pretty awesome. You're able to get off your Rain of Fires quite a bit quicker. So another good macro to have for both specs, whether you're playing Affliction or you're playing Destruction, is a form of macro that combines your like your cooldowns. So for me, I have a macro that makes my Dark Soul instability, my Blood Fury because I play Orc, and my Trinket used all at the same time. You'll notice I haven't updated that from last season. That doesn't really matter because use 13 is going to use whatever trinket is in this item slot here. So when you're using that ability or that macro, it will use literally all of your cooldowns in the same go. So essentially, if you're playing an arena, you're going to be casting Emulate on at least 2 people. You'll build up some shards, preferably to at least 4, max if you can. You'll drop your Infernal, and then I like using that macro to use all of your cooldowns to get the most optimal damage out of your cooldowns and out of your Chaos Bolts while you're using that go. So that's something to think about. I do the same thing for Affliction. You'll notice for Affliction that I haven't named it differently. Same symbol here, just the difference is Dark Soul Misery instead of Dark Soul Instability. But essentially it's the exact same thing. So this would be like good for Affliction if you're, fully dotted on everyone and you're gonna pop off with your Dark Glare and your Malefic Raptures. You would use this macro right before you start spamming Malefic Raptures to really optimize how quick you're getting your Malefic Raptors out and how much damage they're dealing if you're using this same trinket here. So I feel like those are both really good macros to have. Again, you're pretty much putting in the order that you want the ability casted. And I've tested this quite a bit with different things. I know Blizzard kind of worked on getting rid of being able to prioritize spells in a macro. And so one of the things that I tested it on that I learned this week that's actually kind of cool, and keep this in mind, you would really only use this setup if you were playing 2s against maybe like a Rogue Mage, is using Dark Pack and having that in combination with your health increase trinket. So this is ticking down to be able to use here. And the macro that I created is this one here, and I just named it health. But essentially it's /use 13, which is this trinket slot here, and then /use Dark Pack. So having this macro like this, what it'll do is it will activate your trinket first, giving you the increase to health, and then it will use Dark Pack immediately after for you to be able to gain a shield. So I have that set up here. There's my health macro as it's named there, and I'll show you guys kind of what that does. So if you have this equipped and you're using that macro, you're going to see here that my shield absorbs up to 20,604 damage, and my health went up there. So again, that shield would be even stronger if this was a higher item level health trinket increase, like a 213 or whatever. It'd be quite a bit more significant of a shield. So that's a macro that's helped me out in 2s again against like those super blow uppy teams. I know a lot of comps are like that right now. So if you're playing and you're worried, oh man, I'm gonna die in this first go, having that macro with that trinket set up and speccing into Dark Pack, I've noticed is kind of cool. If you really wanted to go above and beyond with the whole health absorption, you could probably run Grimmer with your Void Walker and get an even bigger shield from all of that. For me, I've noticed that the health trinket with Dark Pack works pretty well in and of itself. Then I really wanted to show you guys just what Dark Pack, how much health it absorbs if you're just using it without the health increase. And I had to do this just to test whether or not the macro is actually working correctly. So if you just click Dark Pack and use it, you'll see that the shield's only for 16,000 instead of the 20,600. So that told me that it's using the sequence correctly. It's using the health trinket first and then Dark Pack later for an increase to health. So one more macro that I wanted to cover, and this is kind of the last macro I wanted to cover, applies to banishing other Warlock's pets if they're not playing Grimmer of Sacrifice. So if they're just running their pet kind of normally around, then this banish hover. Again, using a system kind of similar to at cursor, this is at mouse over, and then it's bracketed with banish. Essentially what that's going to let you do is when you see an enemy pet out in an arena or in a battleground or whatever it may be, you can use your ability, and wherever your mouse is at, that's the pet that will be banished. So that's nice because you don't have to remove target from the Warlock. Let's say if you're attacking the Warlock and you need to banish his pet, you can use this macro here. You just hover your mouse over the enemy pet and then use the ability. It will cast banish, and then you don't lose targeting whoever it is that you're trying to kill. That's pretty much the macros that I can think of for Warlocks right now. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up my video on macros. Hopefully something I've shared has helped one of you on knowing how to write macros and really understand kind of how they work. But anyway, any comments or questions you might have, I'd love to hear. And feel free to subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one.